mute is off, and we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, and hello, welcome to G3. We're the ladies who talk tech, and we invite you to think about tech. Today is, what's today? September 18th, 2015. This is episode number 56, and my name is Tina Chase Gillmor. I often forget to say that, so I'm glad I did. Hello, how are you? What's your name? We'd love to meet all of you. Okay, so let's talk about the chat room just for a second. If you're watching live today, I would like to invite you to join our chat room. It's free, it's easy, and let's get the, let me see if I can get the address up here. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Okay, chat.center/G3. Couldn't be easier. It's really easy to use, and you can interact with us while we're doing the show live. If you're watching this later, not on Friday at 11:30 on Pacific time, then, well, you can read the chat later. Okay. So, ladies, hello and welcome.
Hi.
Hello, Rebecca Woodcock in my upper left-hand corner of our Brady Bunch screen.
Hello, Tina.
Christy Wells, you are back from a fabulous trip, and we're going to hear about it, I hope, today.
Welcome. Yes, hello. Good to be back.
Welcome back, Christy. Francine Hardaway coming in from Phoenix, Arizona. Hi, Francine.
I'm pretending to be Hallie with the big glasses today, but these don't have any lenses, so they don't have any real purpose. So I'll probably take them off.
Okay. But the purpose is that they look fab on you. So that's
that's what I thought.
That's
fab,
a great enough
That's what
purpose.
I strive for.
There you go.
Yeah.
And hello, Mary Hodder. Hi, Mary.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Good. All right. So, I had my first experience of I need to have a drone moment. So,
well, that's big.
You tell me, because I have a drone and I have never had one of those.
Okay, that's why I bring this up. So this week, all of a sudden, in my backyard, which faces the Pacific Ocean, it was not one whale, not two, not three, not four, but like a bunch of whales. We've never seen it like this before in Pacifica. And I tried to capture the magic on video, on still. You just can't. It pales in comparison. It just doesn't work. And I thought, hey, I am close enough. I could send a drone out. I could get a really cool shot, and I desperately wanted one at that moment and didn't have it. So now I need to get it if this ever happens again.
Very brave. If you had sent a drone out over the Pacific Ocean, you would have been very brave, because sometimes they don't come back.
Well, I would have tried it. I would have at least gotten close. I could have still stayed even over land and got a little bit closer. And I don't know, but I've seen people do it out here, and they're getting some great shots. So
I think you have to be Eddie Codell to get those great shots with the drone.
I think you definitely have to be probably an experienced drone pilot, but I'm
for sure.
It's a goal now. Now it's a goal after I've seen these fabulous creatures, and man, it was a sight. I wish I could have had you all over. It was just something we've never seen before here. So very, very cool.
Oh, man, I wish I could have been there.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I've ever seen it where you couldn't look anywhere and not see a whale, not see some activity. Every second there was something going on.
Do you
You'd
think
look
that
over here,
means
there was something over there. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Do you think that means something's happening vis-a-vis, I probably shouldn't mention it, climate change?
Well, I'm not going to suppose. I thought about that myself. I was wondering that there was something going on that day. I mean, there was something that was working for this very large pod of whales and food. Something was working. Or not working, it may be.
Tina, how long were they there? Did you see them? Because I'm curious if it was just you happened to catch it the right hour or three. versus?
No, they were here for a couple of days. They were here for at least 2 days, a very large group. And then before and after those 2 days, there were smaller sightings.
So they were commuting somewhere.
I think
They
so.
were on their way to
And
or
dolphins, and I mean, it was just a sight to behold. We literally were outside. A whole bunch of people, found out, and we were hanging out, and just with jaws dropped. I mean, we just hadn't seen anything like it, and it was quite a sight. I mean, I don't think you'd see anything like that unless you'd really go out looking for the whales and find a really good area. It was quite unusual.
And you have the perfect view for that. Anyone who has not seen Tina's place sits on top of a cliff overlooking the ocean, and
That's
is
the
just
good
beautiful.
part and the bad part.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, you also get you're the front line for the storm.
It's not a fun house to be in when we get hit by a large storm. This is true. So, before we lodge into our tech discussion, something that we've talked about a little bit before on our show, and I wanted to bring up again because our dear Republicans at their debate, one of their softball questions at the end of their 3-hour debate was, what woman would you put on the $10 bill? So first thing, did anybody watch the debate?
I watched part of it until it started to look like Donald Trump was going to collapse over the podium in his effort to cut everybody off, and then I walked away.
Okay, so you may not have gotten to this question, which was at the end. There were two very soft sort of, end the debate kind of question. So here are the responses, and I just want to poll you for your reactions. Okay. Rand Paul says Susan B. Anthony. Mike Huckabee says his wife.
What?
Okay. Marco Rubio says Rosa Parks. Ted Cruz says Rosa Parks, but he would put her on the 20 and leave the 10 alone. Okay. Ben Carson says his mother. Donald Trump says his daughter or Rosa Parks. Kind of like the same, I guess. Jeb Bush says, want to take a guess?
His wife.
His wife.
Margaret Thatcher.
Oh,
an American through and through.
That's right.
Scott Walker says Claire Barton. That's perfectly reasonable. Carly Fiorina says she wouldn't change the bill. She will not give an answer for a woman on the bill. John Kasich said Mother Teresa. And Chris Christie said Abigail Adams.
What a bunch of bullshitters. What happened?
Yeah.
Well,
So what do you ladies
Abigail
think
Adams
about that?
is a more reasonable choice.
What's that?
I said at least Abigail Adams is a somewhat more reasonable choice.
Yeah.
I mean,
What
but
about
they
Madonna?
obviously don't know any women who've accomplished anything, and they can't think of any. Like, they only think of men who've accomplished things. So it means that they're, they don't have a slew of women off the top of their heads that they can think of.
Madonna.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, given that we have
Funny.
the idiocracy of, the United States these days, that's not too far off.
Well,
You know.
the question didn't actually say that it had to be an American woman, although one would think that if we're talking about American currency, that would be a given.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't stipulate that it had to be it's usually, it has been, and I think there is a stipulation in the currency that it is a deceased person. So that would exclude Madonna. At least we think so.
Ella Fitzgerald.
what
Sorry about that. We had Mary on for quite some time there, as I didn't change
What shocks me is that in all this time in campaigning, I mean, they've been campaigning for quite a while, and they not once prepared for this question. They not once thought about it. I mean, if you're going to go into a second nationally televised debate, you might want to prepare a little bit and anticipate questions. And it baffles me that this is a question that they didn't even think to prepare for in all this time. Like, they not once thought about the answer to this question.
No,
and
they're
that blows
coached
me
by
away. I
men.
have no idea how.
I also just think that the answers of, my mother, my daughter, my wife
What a cop-out.
is like something, maybe a fourth grader, a fourth grader might say that, and you might still go, hey, Billy, you know what? You didn't really read your assignment, did you?
Exactly.
But then you have to quote Trump here, where he says, "When I think of my first grade self and myself now, they're basically the same. They're the same people. I'm the same person as I was in the first grade." And it's like, yeah, and you just proved it with the goofy answers. I mean,
Good point.
He's, I suspect that a lot of those guys are not too far off from that either.
Yeah.
Mary, you're so bitter, but I agree. The debate was awful. I mean, just watching it was mind-numbing. It was so shocking. And when people say Carly Fiorina was good, I can say that Carly Fiorina was at least a sentient being on the platform.
Right.
That she at least
prepared. She
prepared.
was prepared.
That's right.
Exactly.
The other dudes just
I
got
know it
up
was a
there.
good one because I
Yeah. Go ahead, Christy.
I know it was a good one because I walked in from the office last night and it was on in my house and my husband was yelling at the TV. And so I knew it must have been a good debate, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, turn it off because I can't.
Or a really bad debate.
It's such craziness.
Yeah.
Like,
If you
scares
yell
the crap
at
out of
me,
me.
it's a really, really bad debate. That's
Well-
why it prompts you to yell, right?
I thought
that's true.
that softball question was quite telling, and they want to all, of course, dismiss it, and a lot of them are kind of walking their answers back or their non-answers. But sometimes, you know what? Sometimes the softball questions are illuminating.
And I wonder what those guys think of things like, say, ad blockers or Facebook's new viewability policies.
Are you
stuff.
trying to segue into tech?
Yeah, because these guys are so
Let's do that.
stupid. They don't have an answer. What if you ask them a tech question? Tech is just such a big part of our lives. And advertising such a big part of the media industry, and Facebook's such a big part of how we're all connected together. Those are the kinds of, I actually don't think those are even any more tech questions. Those are questions about current life and policies that have to be developed to deal with things that are part of our lives.
Almost lifestyle questions. And I would imagine being, or mostly being public figures, they probably don't use those technologies. Do you
Donald
think?
Trump uses the technology. He's quite active on Twitter.
He tweets.
I don't know about the rest of them, but it's amazing to watch the shitstorm on Twitter that he gets himself into.
I know, because
He's
he
quite the
tweets
bully.
the way he lives.
Yeah.
The one thing about him is he probably is the same person
Yeah.
in first grade, and today, but he also is the same person on social media that he is in life. So he tweets out shit without ever thinking where it's going because he doesn't ever really care who is listening.
Well, I thought it was amazing because it's like I've been off the grid a little bit, so I'm still playing a little bit of catch up. But I think it was fun to kind of go back and start to read some of the articles following this debate, this morning, to kind of just all of a sudden people who were discounting Trump are now like, oh my God, he has potential to actually win this thing. And I still don't believe that. I know I'm freezing. I don't know something's going on with my internet connection, and I'll move in just a minute. But
Okay.
I think it was fascinating that I never once considered him a real contender, and people, even after all the craziness, still think that.
The polls say otherwise, yeah.
I think he was more of a contender before the debate. I've heard more comment that he blew it in this debate. That I just thought that he looked like he had a bad back in this debate. That he was like leaning over the podium, and he looked like he had to hold on to it to keep standing, which could well have been true because it was 3 hours long, you know.
By the way, someone might have their keyboard. The keyboard is loud today. It might be Mary.
Okay.
I don't know why or how, but maybe your mic on the computer is on or something. Could be. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. We still have.
I want to go back to the collapse of the media, though.
So
I think that's a big fucking thing.
So Francine, why don't you clue us in on to what you're talking about? What's collapsing and what's media?
Okay, well, media is what we used to get our news from before we just got it from our friends. And media is still people out there writing, thinking they are giving us good information. And media, from time immemorial, has been supported by advertising. And what has happened is that in an effort to chase consumers, advertisers have gotten more and more in your face about their ads. And consumers have voted with their keyboards, and they've basically been buying and downloading ad blockers. And this week, Apple, who has decided that it is the privacy advocate for the rest of us, and I'm cynical on all sides of this, so don't take whatever I say with a grain of salt, because I actually work in this industry. So Apple gave everybody with the new iOS 9 the ability to install ad blockers so that they wouldn't have to see ads on the mobile web, because some people have argued that over 50% of the content on the mobile, in people's mobile data plans, is consumed by ads. So that's one issue. Then what happened was that everybody did download ad blockers with iOS 9, and the top sort of 5 apps in the Apple App Store yesterday were ad blockers. And one of the makers of those ad blockers, Marco Arment, who is the founder of Instapaper, actually pulled his from the App Store today because he realized that it didn't make him feel good to be maybe taking people's livelihoods away.
An app called Peace, correct?
Right.
Okay. So no one likes ads, and everyone wants to block them. So what's the problem?
Everybody wants free content. So
everybody wants
this
free
is all a
content.
race to zero. It makes no sense.
I
You
disagree.
have to
I don't
be
think-
willing.
People don't want to pay for anything in any way, right? Okay, Mary, what do you disagree about?
I think that's changing. I mean, the thing is that we were sold this story all up through the 90s and even in the mid 2000s that if you bought, media on paper, right, that the reason you paid for this is because the paper cost money to publish, right?
Sorry.
And so
Oh
this
my
ad,
God, Mary, you're showing a
this
Versace commercial.
Well, what I'm saying is that we were told that the paper was the reason, it was the cost of delivery and the paper, and that's the reason we had to pay the $15 a year to get the subscription. In fact, we were covering the cost of delivery and the paper, and then the ads covered the content, right? So the article on Channing Tatum was, the writer, the photography by Mario Testucci or whatever his name is, and, all that expensive
Mario
crap that makes... Yes, that makes the magazine. That was actually covered, Testino. That was actually covered by the advertising in the magazine. And then part of the deal with the magazine was they would sell our zip codes to, because of the subscription, they knew where we lived. They would sell that to the advertisers, and that was the model. Okay, then you stick everything online, and people are like, why should I pay? You told us we were paying for paper and delivery.
Wait a minute. There's another piece to that, Mary, which was like the Clue Train Manifesto and all of those people in the beginning of the internet who said information wants to be free. Remember that?
No, I'm talking prior to. This is outside of the internet. This is the story that people have been told about why they paid for media. Right? This is forget the internet for a minute. Forget digital for a moment. Then you add in digital, and then yes, you have a bunch of people who say that information wants to be free, and John Perry Barlow delivers his, box full of little teeny scraps of paper, and John Battelle puts those together, and they end up in Wired, and it's the free manifesto, right? And what could have been a mess, now John Perry Barlow is like, oh, he's God because he figured this out. And anyway, so the bottom line is that we confused free and free. There's information that wants to be free in terms of freedom to distribute, right? So I want to talk about an article. I want to post it on our chat list. I stick the link up there, and it's freely distributed, right? Part of the copyright, there's the distribution, and then there's the ownership of the material. The other piece of it is free as in beer, right? And we have to pay for our beer. And the question is, how do we pay for the content? And so we've developed this system where we sell out the user's personal data in an attempt to make money on, with better, quote unquote, better matched ads. And then we have a system where the advertising is supposed to pay for the cost of the media. But that Versace ad that I showed in here, makes way more money for Vanity Fair than, the stupid lawnmower ad that shows up when I go to look at a site because 3 weeks ago I may have looked at a lawnmower on Amazon, for some reason. Maybe I was just looking up the directions or how to contact the manufacturer. But in any event, now I'm getting like weeks of lawnmower ads, which is stupid. And so the problem is that we've totally messed up the ecosystem, and part of it is the publisher's fault because they told us a story prior to digital that was true, but it didn't really adequately cover the whole thing, and then advertisers have taken the ball and run with it.
Well,
I
part
think
of
that
it is
people would be willing
advertisers'
to
fault,
pay.
Mary, because
Yes, I just said
advertisers
part of it is
began paying
advertisers.
nothing for digital ads. They thought
That's
that
right.
since all this free was happening, that they should pay Zippo for a digital ad. So
Well,
all the newspapers lost all their revenue.
Don't you think that most people forget that we have to pay for this somehow?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
but usually we just don't have a choice in the how. Like I don't mind paying for the service, the whatever I'm getting, but I kind of would like a choice as to how I pay for that.
Well,
If I
true.
want to look at ads and pay for it that way, that's one way. If I want to actually just go into my wallet and say, you know what, let me just throw $10 at you and leave me alone this year. Maybe I want to do it that way, or maybe there's some other models, but we're not really given much of a choice.
Well, and we don't
So
have the right
that's not
models.
entirely
because
true.
No.
We don't have
There
a
are
we don't have a
places-
micropayment model. We should have a micropayment model. And the only things that people will pay for enough to support the media is financial information. People pay for that, but they don't even pay for medical information anymore.
So the thing is I think micropayments are a solution in search of a problem. I think the thing that you're really asking for is compulsory licensing with privacy, where basically as part of our ISP fee into this household, anybody who grabs a piece of media, it could be anything, a TV show, a movie, a song, a Vanity Fair article, whatever, that, then the micropayment.
Whoops. We're losing Mary too. Whoa, we're having fun today with our internet. Okay. Well,
Conspiracy.
Good, this gives me a chance to argue.
hang on no, it doesn't. Because I want to hear from Rebecca and Christy a little bit. Totally lost Mary. All right, we'll get her back. Rebecca, Christy, want to handle this for a second while I try to retrieve Mary?
Sorry.
Oh, Mary's there.
Sorry, I'm back.
We've lost your video.
And I've lost your video.
Oh, goodness.
So
Okay.
anyway, my point just is that basically with compulsory licensing, we could actually pay creators and publishers of works, and we could do it in a private manner where basically once the 2 months has passed, we dump all the what did you read stuff and don't collect that information. We just pass it along to publishers and whatnot.
You got us back there, Mary?
Yeah, I got you back.
Okay.
So, but the thing is there are publishers that do it. I just re-upped for Vanity Fair. I paid them $15. They've given me complete access to all of their archives, and they post articles online, but they give them to people who pay for the online and paper magazine together for the $15. And I used to pay $12 just for the paper version. So
Right,
I'm happy to give them $15.
In
and
fact,
and
this is what a lot of magazines are doing these days.
Yeah,
You pay for the
makes sense.
subscription, you'll get
Right.
the print, and you'll get the online access.
I pay not to get the print,
You pay-
but I pay for the New Yorker. I pay for the Jessica Lesson. I pay her, and we should have her on. The information is probably the best business information I'm getting lately. I pay for Pando because I admire Sarah Lacey, and I pay for the New York Times because I can't remember how not to pay for the New York Times. I grew up in New York.
Ladies, what about you? Are you paying for subscriptions? It sounds like
No, I'm not. I'm very cheap, and I don't want to. I'm very honest about that. I'm one of those people that I want everything for free because I really do have to pick and choose what I buy, and information, because you can get a lot of information online without paying for it, then I'm happy to have ad supported. And I
Okay, so
understand
you
how
don't run an ad blocker, right?
but I'm not buying an ad blocker, and I've tried ad blockers before, and actually, I'm not convinced that the ad blockers are doing great things with my information either, and I actually don't trust them. They're actually, I think, selling it and doing worse things that I don't even know about because they're so concealed about whatever it is they're doing.
Mary is nodding
and
her
also
head in agreement.
some of the ad blockers. So Ghostery's business model, while they're blocking some of your ads, is still to sell your data upstream. And the problem is that when you block ads, you may be in some cases blocking the beacons and the tracking materials that are in the ads, but in other cases you aren't. There's also another issue, and that is, if we go to a model where everybody's blocking ads, does all advertising then flip into a model where it's native content because it doesn't want to be blocked?
That's right.
It's editorial, and you don't know when you're seeing an ad or not, and now you're being manipulated by an advertiser versus getting some content that somebody really believes in or that they really reported on, and it becomes very messy.
Yeah, see, I feel the same way. I mean, of course, I'm biased because I work with Zito, which is an ad tech company, and I see that we work with both sides. So we see the issue for both sides. The publishers are dying because they don't get enough money for the ads to pay their people, and the advertisers are dying because they can't find the people because the people keep moving around. So it's a very broken ecosystem, but we got to fix it because I do believe, like Rebecca, that the answer to it isn't really blocking ads. It's finding a better, and I don't even think it's ads that people mind. It's tracking that people mind. When you say beacons and trackers, Mary, I think that is what people hate.
It gets a little scary.
Well, beacons are trackers. I mean, but there's other kinds of trackers.
Rebecca?
Keith says in the chat room, we're all targets, and that's so true. I mean, it doesn't matter whether we're online or offline or whatever. Advertisers are going to try to find us, whether it's through ad blocking or not. And he has a good point here. If we don't want to be targets, then we need to pay for stuff. But even then, we're a target for that subscription. Everybody wants to sell us something, even the content providers. So I don't think there's a way to get away from being a target no matter what you do. And honestly, if I'm choosing to get my content for free and not paying for it, I understand how that ecosystem works. You clear your cookies every once in a while, whatever, if you don't want to be followed, or just
clearing
don't
cookies
go to that
doesn't do
site.
anything.
Is all advertisement nuisance? I mean, don't we want some of this information if it's actually information? Or, I guess advertisement isn't necessarily information, but sometimes there's information in the advertisement that we are looking for. Maybe we are looking for a product that's going to enhance, what we're doing. If I'm sitting on Ancestry.com and I get an ad that is pushing me to or pointing me towards some sort of tool that's going to be helpful in my research, I'm interested in that. That's actually a place where I'm going to go, hey, this I wouldn't find this elsewhere. I'm going to look at it. But those seem kind of like far and few between, right? And when is
But
it?
I think that's the importance, and I think that's the difference of, having better
Poor Christy,
targeted ads, and I think that's where the web needs to go is, am I breaking up?
A little bit, but go ahead.
Okay. I think that for me is actually, I'm excited by all this because I think that we as advertisers, and I'm going to include myself, but I just think we as advertisers have gotten kind of lazy, and it's been really easy to just throw something up and hope somebody sees it and all this. And I'm hoping this actually is a forcing function for people to do better ads and more targeting. Because it doesn't matter what website you're on. If somebody's presenting you something that you find useful, that's a great ad. But I don't need to see everything. Like Mary doesn't want to see the lawnmowers, right? I don't have a lawn, so I hope I never see a lawnmower ad. So I just think that there's so much data out there, and we've talked about this a couple of different times about the value of media and the value of content and what we'd be willing to pay for. But I just, to kind of just sum that all up again, I just think it's really important that, people pushing ads just get smarter because they have enough data about us. They should be able to say, they know that I'm interested in wine, I'm a foodie, I travel, I do genealogy on the side. So what is that product that you think I might be interested in, and push it out to me, but don't give me their lawnmower ad.
Well, it's not only push it out to you, it's push it out to you with some great information or great creative. What's happened in the ad agencies, when I worked at an ad agency in the literal dark ages, the big people in the agencies were the creatives. Now the people in the agencies are the quants. They're the data scientists. And so everybody knows who we are, but they still don't know what to deliver to us that might be compelling. And that's where TV ads really did a great job, because they had good creative, and you watched them even if you weren't in the market for the product. You watched them because it was fun seeing the creative. And I think one of the problems we have, and this has been my beef for a long time about advertising, is we've basically thrown out the creative.
Well, with TV sort of breaking down, basically, we don't have that as a hub in our society anymore, really. We're not all watching on Thursdays at 9 o'clock anymore. So we're not having a communal experience, and we're not learning the jingles, and we're not learning so there's a different thing going on now. And it kind of struck me the other day that we just, we're all taking in all sorts of different pieces, and we're not having that communal experience anymore. And I think that there's something that's a little bit sad for me in some ways, because I think that there was some connective tissue that sort of bound us all together in a popular culture kind of way.
It's on Facebook now.
So even as a marketer, not the media content creator who's using advertising to support my business, but as a potential marketer who would advertise on those platforms, my number one goal is to own the relationship with that consumer. So if I can use that ad to trade something useful that might get someone to give up their email or whatever it is, then I can cut out having to advertise to that person forever. So creating something that would allow someone to be or make somebody be willing to hand over their email address by providing some sort of how-to information or something that is highly targeted to what they might want to do. In order to get that relationship one-on-one, that is my number one goal as a marketer.
Using the advertisement as opening the door to a different type of relationship that's got a little bit of a different model.
I think the people who are just doing blast advertising just without that goal in mind are lazy, like I guess was it Christy who said, and aren't I don't know, as a marketer that's going to be my goal, and at the end of the day that's also going to try to cut out the publishers and the content creators, and so they're going to constantly have to find new advertisements for that readership.
So aren't you talking about maybe using advertisement to eventually push people to your app, which is your world?
App or whatever it is for them to give me their email address so that now I can communicate with them directly, or if I can drop a cookie from them visiting my website, whatever it is, now I own that relationship and I don't have to pay for advertising anymore. It's exactly the same with Facebook now too. I will not use Facebook advertising to go to promote my Facebook page anymore, because again, they're going to want to control that relationship. But nice cat, by the way. But if I can get that person to me directly and I can own that conversation, that's the number one goal now.
See, I don't think people want to be owned, and they don't want you to get at them directly. But Mary was wildly typing into the chat room that DNA is being used for advertising, and she's got an article in there about that. And then she's got an article that says DNA is used to shame people for littering. I mean, this is where I don't want it used.
But
I don't mind being sold a car, but I don't want to be sold anything on the basis of my DNA, because that is totally frightening. And that would probably be insurance, wouldn't it, Mary?
That's terrifying.
Well, it is scary, and it's concerning. I mean, the whole idea that, who you are as a person, where you cannot change or control that and don't necessarily want to reveal that, as Francine just said, is being used to advertise to you or to select you, to move you into one or another categories. It's a little bit frightening.
To sell me insurance, or right? Or
or to redline you. I mean, basically, it's a kind of it's pretty easy if you can get the data to go look at where a bank is saying, oh, we don't offer mortgages to people in that neighborhood. That's the old definition of redlining, right? You draw a line around that neighborhood and say, oh, bad neighborhood, we're not going to give them any financial services. And that's where that term originates. So, now if the way we determine that it's not geographical, it's not obvious in that way that one class of people or one group of people are worth talking to and another is not. I mean, how do you figure that out, and how do you find out? Because one of the problems with digital is when there's an absence of something, you don't know that it's happening or available. It's only when you see it that you understand it.
I don't know. I mean, everybody seems to want targeted advertising, want advertising that pertains to them and not,
you mean
a really
the individuals, the end users want targeted advertising? I do not. I do not. When we poll people, when I do studies, the people, the vast majority, we're talking 85%, do not want. Take it away. Don't track me. I don't want this. They try to obscure themselves. Of course, it's a fallacy that they can. I mean, deleting your cookies doesn't do anything, because as soon as you go to the site again, it's right back there, and they already know you from the old thing, so they just re-aggregate the data.
Right.
I mean, it's
after you do your Google search and then buy your product, and then you get served up ads about that product for the next 3 months. You're going to tell me that most people don't want to see that, or they don't care if they're seeing. They don't want to see that anymore. They've bought that product. Right. I get that they don't want to be tracked, but you don't want to see it anymore. I don't want to see ads for Nutex TriCaster. I've got it. It's sitting right here. But if I go to the Nutex site and I do a search on TriCaster or something, I start getting Nutex, I start getting TriCaster ads.
That is retargeting, and retargeting, I think, is one of the premier pain points of digital advertising. And I so totally don't understand why advertisers still use it, because it's the dumbest thing on the planet. Because if I'm scared to go to Zappos now, because if I go to Zappos and buy a pair of shoes, I'll get not only Zappos ads, but I'll get that same frigging pair of shoes for the next 6 months.
That's right. That's right. Because they don't know that you've got those shoes right now, right? And in some ways, you'd kind of want them to know that so that you'd stop getting it. But you don't want to be tracked. So what gives? What do you take? The tracking or the pain of seeing it over and over?
So the thing that I really don't accept the premise of that question.
Okay,
those aren't the
please.
only two options that we
Right,
have. We do have options like this, right? Where Vanity Fair knows my zip code because I purchased the magazine. They know where I am generally, and that's about it. And then they take that information, and the advertising is brand advertising, right? So I'm not going to buy that Versace thing that I showed earlier in the show because I'm never going to spend $2,000 on a shirt. Like, that's just ridiculous. But brand advertising has a different purpose. It's about mind share and putting ideas out there. So,
Right.
Maybe that shirt has a certain color and cut, and then Versace's part of a larger group of companies that sell that same cut and color all the way down the chain, from higher end stores that might sell that shirt for $200 and then medium for $100 and then lower end for $30 and then $15 and then even $5. And, they have figured out a different model for this. And frankly, Snapchat is using it. Snapchat doesn't know who its users are, and the content is made by the users and it disappears. So it's probably pretty racy content, right? Because it's like 13-year-olds using the service. So, and they're all sexting with each other.
I use Snapchat.
Yeah, but the vast majority of
racy content. I know what you're saying.
Okay, but the vast majority of their users are young kids who are putting out racy stuff, right? And the advertisers don't care because the content disappears, and their Snapchat is selling $400 CPMs against that thing, because while someone's watching the phone, because they're paying rapt attention, because that image is loading or that video is loading, even because they know it's going to disappear in 8.5 seconds, so they're watching. Like, whenever the photo comes up, they want to see it.
And it's viewable.
It's viewable. Right. So then they watch the ad, and
that
so advertisers are paying $400 CPMs, and there's no content that anyone's even creating there.
But
so the question is,
that goes to the difference between direct response advertising, which means you're going to buy something as a result of that ad, and what you're saying, Mary, which advertising used to be brand advertising, which is top of mind awareness and associating your brand with something else that's pleasant, that that makes people, when they are going to buy, remember you. And what happened in the internet in the beginning was everybody put up banners and they decided to use it for direct response instead of for brand. And that's how the CPMs got so low, and it's how the ads got so bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, that has been a drive to the bottom, and I think Snapchat's proving that it can be different, that you can do brand advertising and you can do it well, but you need something where people do pay attention to the content. And there's so much noise, and frankly, the publishers have contributed to that by making very noisy sites and very noisy experiences in, apps and whatnot, that, it's a brand advertiser needs to know that they've got the attention of the user, or it's not worth it.
So what's the difference between in-app advertising and web advertising?
In-app advertising is advertising that once you've downloaded an app, which maybe they've given you for free, in order to keep using that or whatever, you have to buy something. So in other words, I'm playing a game, and I'm a bad person to try to describe this because I don't play games, but you can buy more soldiers, or you can buy more, equipment for your soldier, or you can buy more something or other. That is an in-app ad.
Or another game.
Or another game, that's right. That is an in-app ad. It runs after you've bought some app, and in theory, it has something to do with that app. The regular mobile advertising happens during mobile browsing, and interestingly enough, a lot of those ads are what's called app install ads, which is, ads that make you want to install an app. And that's broken too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's broken too, because there's too many ads.
What's the takeaway here? All advertising is broken?
I frankly think we have too much media, and we need a huge shakeout. I frankly just think there's too much. And if we actually had to do this in a more reasonable way that respected the user and or where people paid for certain content, that a lot of the crap media and crap media experiences would go away, because but right now there's no incentive to do that. So it's just we further drive to the bottom, which is why people do ad blockers. And I get what that guy's saying, Mario, about how he didn't want to feel bad because he was getting in the middle of a business relationship, and he was causing people to not be able to earn a living, but which is debatable because the ad values are so low, but whatever. But on the other hand, the users are paying a lot for their data, right? People generally pay around $30 for 2 gigabytes of data coming in on their phones or mobile devices. And if 50% of what you're using is this crap advertising, we're actually paying $15 to get garbage. And he's helping that, so that your stuff is more streamlined and comes in faster. And frankly, why can't that $15 go to the, why don't we do compulsory licensing on our phones? And $15 out of our $30 data fee goes to content makers and not to these idiot advertisers.
Say what compulsory licensing even.
Christy and Rebecca are awfully quiet right now.
Compulsory licensing means that through some kind of, that basically whatever you use, you pay for, and you do it through a fixed fee in your, through your ISP. We could do it through our phone services, whatever that looks like. But it's, basically what you're doing is you're saying, for every bit of media that comes through the system, tick, 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 okay, 20 people read that article, then we pay 20 chits over to that, article writer, and this other one got 400,000 views, and we pay 400,000 chits over to that guy, and guess who really got paid today? And so now it's, it's a use model, right? It's whatever you use, you're paying back to the thing, but to the creator, the publisher, whatever that looks like. And it could be for any kind of media. You stream music, you do whatever.
Rebecca and Christy, I want to get you back in the game a little bit here. Has there been any sort of advertising that you've experienced recently where you thought, hey, that's done right? I'm really respecting what's going on here. It's hitting me the right way. It's coming at me the right way. I'm not paying too much for it. I mean, can you think of anything is that too specific of a question? Probably.
Probably. I mean, I don't know that I have that thought, but
Christy's trying to say something, but her internet sucks today.
I mean, I do look at different techniques and say to myself,
blown
"Oh, that's an
away,"
interesting."
or had anything that just made me say, "That's a job well done." I think what's that?
Yeah, Christy. So there's such a lag here that you're talking, and then we're listening, and then we're starting to talk, and then you're starting to talk. So You know what I would like to do with you, Christy? Maybe I can hang you up and restart you and see if that helps. If you can hear me, I'm going to do that. Okay, good. Good. We'll hang her up for a second, and we'll try to get her back. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. We'll see.
Don't we love Skype?
Don't we love this stuff? Yeah. We love it when it works.
Well, I asked Rebecca. I mean, Rebecca doesn't like ads at all.
No, I'm not gonna say I don't like ads at all. I'm fine with ads. I'm fine because I know that I'm not willing to pay for stuff, so it's okay. I'm not that bothered by it, and it doesn't creep me out because I know how it works. Whatever, it's fine. I do look at certain techniques and I think, oh, that's an interesting approach every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I don't know, for me, the less targeted something is, the more annoyed I am, actually, because I'm thinking, why are you even showing this to me?
Yeah.
I am so not your audience. It's so irrelevant. That's when it actually does get annoying to me.
So you don't
Sorry,
want brand
everybody, for the noise
advertising.
here. Sorry about that. This one particular channel makes a sound when we call. I don't know why. It wasn't a minute ago.
Christy left.
It could be that she's hit.
She left. She's done with us.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
You don't think she's done with us? It's too bad because I wanted to hear about her safari.
Yes.
Yeah,
we
that's
are going
right.
to get her back. Keep talking while I get Christy back.
Talk among yourselves.
Talk among yourselves.
Well, what about Nilay Patel's article? Did any of you read that, or just Christy had read it?
Is that the one from The Verge?
Yes, the one about Facebook, Twitter, and Google. Facebook, Google, and Amazon controlling everything.
Yeah, actually, and it's interesting because this is a war amongst them, and I'm sure they have been wargaming in back rooms for 5 to 10 years now to even get to this point, to try to take control of the advertising space. I don't know. When I look at that, I'm thinking of it from a corporate war game strategist. In my former life, I was called a market and competitive intelligence person.
Really?
So we would do stuff like that. We would find every weakness and strength of our competitors and write 50-page essays about if this, what if scenarios. Getting into the minds even of what they tell their employees, every possible scenario, and then tell our executive suite what's the likely thing to happen and how can we position ourselves against it. And I'm sure they've been doing this for, and actually the things I'm still seeing moves now in the marketplace from reports we did 5-7 years ago. So they've been looking at this. Google and Apple, maybe now even Facebook, now that they're a mature company, they're all wargaming against each other, trying to find out how they can take each other out, control the advertising space, because that is where all the money is made. And it is a little bit scary to think about one owning that relationship for the other, because I don't know, it's a catch-22 for me, because if one dominates, then our information is being exchanged in fewer places. But if we have more competition in that space, then we're on multiple exchanges and we're being bought and traded on multiple platforms. So I don't know how I feel about that. But when I look at the war games, I'm really impressed.
Well, what I thought about it was that there's no way that Nilay can compete with that. And I wrote him a tweet that basically said The Verge ought to start thinking about charging, because in that environment, where does The Verge even have a place?
It doesn't. And actually, I was surprised. I didn't even know that GigaOM had folded, but they folded exactly because of this,
Oh,
right?
hell yeah.
The race to zero, the ad blocking, and them not even being able to make any money for the free content that they provide. So then at the end of the day, as a reader of a company like that, why would you install ad blocking if it's going to take
Right.
away the content that you love so much?
Well,
So
and
you're
that's what
probably right.
bothers
That's
me.
why they should probably start charging. And that's why, as a marketer myself, I want to cut out the advertising exchanges. And if you are willing to give me your, the ability to communicate with you directly, that takes you off of being on this trading marketplace, and we can talk directly now. So that's my, I
So
don't
then
want.
that's email newsletters.
Exactly. I mean, that's one way to do it. That's one way to do it.
Well,
And if I
the
create
thing,
enough value for you to make that choice, then I think it's better for both of us because you're not being traded without control, and I don't have to pay to try to find or blast people in an exchange that who knows how effective it is.
the
But
thing
it does
is
have
in
the
the
public.
Snapchat version of this, they are doing what Rebecca is describing. They've taken the ad tech out of the middle. They have their own system and they sell their own ads. So they're basically selling brand to brands and creating what she's talking about. But it takes a lot of money to do the direct relationship with the advertiser in order to plug that in with your direct relationship with your user. The brands aren't getting data on the user other than the traditional thing of like a little bit of demographic information, but they don't know. Snapchat doesn't know who its users are.
But
That's part of the whole reason Snapchat exists.
isn't Snapchat then becoming an exchange, an advertising trading network, buying
But
and
it's
selling its
a
visits?
direct relationship versus using when you turn on an ad tech, you're turning on like 40 companies in the chain that all take little pieces of the thing, and they sell the ads for you. You don't know what the ads are. It's just placed in a module in your site, and
And you don't know
also you have
where
to
But
they're
see,
turn
I
over.
don't
appearing.
see that as a direct relationship if I have to go
No,
through
it's not.
Snapchat to get you. Yeah, okay, exactly.
Well, if you're the advertiser, but Snapchat has a direct relationship with both the advertiser and the user. I thought that's what you were talking about.
And that's
No,
They
how
so
it
have,
they're
used to
no
be.
better than a Google or an Apple or a Facebook. They're still trying to own and trade and exchange. They then have that platform, but as an advertiser, that's not necessarily a direct relationship because, say, Snapchat decides to completely change everything, just like Facebook did. Then if I don't have that direct relationship with that user, then I could be cut out and they can start
but you,
charging me more again for advertising. Exactly
but
what
as
Facebook did.
the advertiser, you don't have any control when you're in an ad network. You're
Exactly.
just
That's
buying
why I
stuff
would
on
want to cut them
exchange.
At
out and
least
have.
when you're buying direct, I
Yeah,
think Mary's talking about buying direct versus buying programmatically. Because
I
when you're
see.
buying programmatically, then you have no idea. You're buying,
Yeah,
anything in your general target area that costs the general price that you put into the media order. But
I
when
see
you're
what you're
buying
saying.
direct, you know that you're buying Snapchat. Well, but that doesn't mean that and you know what you think Snapchat's customers are, but you may be wrong. And
Yeah.
also, that kind of takes us back to the early days of publishing. I mean, a lot of the young publishers who are targeting millennials are doing that. They're trying to get rid of the ad exchanges and the ad tech because they do know that it's costing money and alienating users. We're in
Yeah.
another scary transition.
Well, and Snapchat has a large enough audience where they can start cutting out the other advertising networks, and they should actually, if they
Yeah.
that's the right answer for their business model, actually.
Well, they've just started, relatively recently monetizing,
Mm-hmm.
And because they're so youth oriented, God knows how long they'll even be around, because Snapchat would be one of those companies that I would think could implode in 15 minutes if the teens decide to go somewhere else.
Right, right. That's the danger.
And at least Facebook has a broader audience and maybe won't do that. But it's advertising is really complicated. I never realized how complicated it could get. But
Yeah, I don't understand it nearly enough.
it's very, and I, having worked with Zito for 4 years, it took me forever to become actually knowledgeable enough to even talk about it publicly, because it is so complicated. And if you look at who's in the loop of any ad that's placed, and you realize that the whole thing happens in microseconds, it's mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't lucrative. It's not lucrative for anybody involved. There is
Yeah.
nobody that you can say in media environment, nobody is making all the money. It's like, maybe Facebook's doing better than most. Google used to be doing better, but Google is now threatened because people don't search anymore, and Google's ad business was built on search. It changes so often that you can't keep track of it.
Well, Google, wasn't it in one of those articles that Google still has such a huge lion's share of this market that, yeah, they feel threatened, but they're really.
It's 40%.
I'm not sure.
Google has 40%, and so does Facebook, and then the rest is everybody else.
All right.
So it is actually still very, very significant.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people still search for things. It's one of I just bought a washing machine 2 days ago, and I went to Google and I searched for certain things, and then, within an hour, I bought it online. I mean, it's getting delivered to the place, and that's that, and I'm done.
But you didn't necessarily buy a washing machine that connects to the internet, did you?
Well, I bought it entirely online. I looked up consumer reports. I looked up user reviews. I did the user review searches in Google. I searched for 5 different outlets that sold the models that I was interested in. I quickly looked at their inventory and their photos, and I called up one of them and I said, do you actually have this in stock, and can you actually deliver it when I want it delivered? And then they said yes, and then I went back and purchased it online, and then I called them and I said, okay, do you have the order? Get me in the slot for delivery. Cool, good, we're done, bye. And
that only took an hour?
It took, an hour and 20 minutes. I mean, it was about 20 minutes to do the purchase,
Jeez.
but an hour to do all the searching and look at everything and just decide what to do.
It takes
And-
me a whole lot more
Interesting.
time to do my searching when I'm buying a big product
But-
like that.
Actually,
Okay,
that's interesting
but-
to me, Mary, because you're using Google to research and facilitate a purchase. Whereas, and I just thought about it, I haven't actually used Google for the purchase process in quite a while. I go straight to Amazon, and that's how I look up products or whatever. And the only reason I go to Google to search for anything is to learn how to do something. So it's more informational. And I'm searching for articles on how to troubleshoot something or solve a problem that I have, but never to actually purchase something. And I'm wondering, what that ratio is now in the general public. People who are
I don't
actually-
know. And I
Yeah.
agree with you. I mean, it really depends on the thing. Yes, I go to Amazon and look at reviews, but I didn't even bother for this. I wanted direct user experience with, so I went to review sites that do appliances, and I didn't, I wanted to, price and look at things, and I could do that really quickly by going to the major sites that I know sell large appliances like that. That said, I mean, I did buy a dishwasher on eBay, and I had it drop shipped from the KitchenAid factory, and it was delivered here 3 days later from a guy where all he does is sell those. I'm sure he sells on more sites than eBay, but he sold it on eBay. It was a $1,400 dishwasher. I paid $650 for it.
Well,
And the
that's-
delivery was free
That's
and no
interesting
tax.
because
It was freaking great.
I can remember a show where you said that eBay is not the place that you ever do that. That you use
That I
eBay.
don't?
That you use eBay when you are buying something that's more like a collectible or a
I
one
do
of
that,
a kind.
yeah.
So this is
But
a little
but
departure for you.
So I will do that if it's coming to me. I would never have it sent somewhere else. I'd have this washing machine sent somewhere else, and it's sight unseen, and I'm not gonna see it for like a month. And so when it's gonna get delivered and installed, I needed something different. But if it's coming to me, I will buy from a seller on eBay that sells new. I mean, this is not old.
Yeah.
But I would do that on eBay. I mean, that's a very rare thing. How many dishwashers do you buy for your own house? I bought one, a couple of years ago, and that's it. Like, we don't need another one.
I might have
buy
to buy
things-
another one soon. Mine's making funny noises.
I
The
buy
vast
things on
majority
eBay
of my purchases.
after I know what I want to buy. I see whether eBay has it cheap. But
Uh-huh.
I don't decide anything on the basis of eBay because it
My-
doesn't have that function for
So
me.
I might actually.
My point with eBay, just to clarify, is that I find eBay is good for one-offs generally. So 99% of what I buy at eBay is a one-off. That's a collectible or a one of a kind, or maybe it's something that they no longer sell, and someone just happens to be selling a new version that's just old, or that that's now off the market. Amazon is where I go to buy commodity stuff, right? And it's because they have commodities and they have really good prices. But if you want to buy a one-off thing, it's not going to be at Amazon because it's no longer sold. So it's, the thing about the dishwasher was that the guy who happens to do that, where he arranges the drop ship from KitchenAid, and yet it's so dramatically less than at Lowe's or Home Depot or any appliance shop or at Amazon, is he happens to run his business out of eBay. So I did that purchase at eBay only because he was there. It was
Okay,
about
so
him.
let me just say something about all of this. Nobody has mentioned going to a manufacturer's website or even a dealer's like Home Depot or Lowe's, a distributor's website.
I go there for reviews. I look at the reviews there, and I look at the price that they have, but the prices are never very good at Lowe's or Home Despots, as I call them, or whatever. I mean, I don't think that they're, and the service can be good, or it's really spotty. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's terrible, and I don't want to deal with it. But I'll tell you where I did end up buying the washer. It was a front-loading washer. The normal price was about $1,300. I ended up buying at the Sears Scratch and Dent, and so I called.
That's good.
Yeah, so I paid $650 for it, and then with all the other junk, including delivery and installation, and haul away the old one, it was $1,000 out the door, and tax and all the junk that you have to do, and also the extended 5-year warranty, and then also Sears includes this thing where you can call them whenever you want, and they'll come as part of the 5-year thing, and clean all the seals, replace the hoses as needed or any parts as needed, and clean the outgoing and the incoming, which with washers and lint and stuff can get clogged up. And given that I do not use this washer, like I needed it to be, I was like, okay, that's that. I'm willing to pay an extra $100 for that. So every year for the next 5 years,
maintenance. Yeah,
yeah,
But
they'll
see,
go do the maintenance.
the bigger point for me is that nobody has said anything about a brand, and nobody has said anything about using advertising to buy these products. And now imagine that you're an advertiser, and that you work for a company, you're a marketer in a company that makes dishwashers or makes washing machines. You are freaking tearing your hair out because you
Yeah.
have no idea how to reach Mary Hodder.
Let me,
Yeah.
let me give you a very short story because we're about to end the show. A very short story about how I recently bought a range, so a cooktop oven combo. Okay.
And it's the same one that I have.
Same one that Mary has.
Configuration. We love our stove.
Almost the same one, but it's the same
it's just a different
deal.
configuration.
GE profile. So what I did is I first
mentioned a brand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
That's
did.
the first mention of a brand, I think, on this entire podcast.
And I'm not brand loyal, but this is how I came across it. I first saw it in person at Home Depot, at Home Depot. I liked how it looked, and I wasn't super crazy about the price point, but I then went to do some research, and I started to read about it. I did all my reviews. I Googled. I figured all that out. Figured out it was a pretty good appliance. And then at that point, I started searching for how was I going to get the best price, meaning, your price, they weren't going to have to haul anything away because we already demoed our kitchen, but delivery and all that stuff. The warranty, really important. So as it turned out, I ended up getting it from a place called Appliance Connection. It was on the East Coast. It was a great service and well delivered and when promised. But it took some time, and I looked at Amazon. They offered the product. I could have gotten it from there. There were a whole bunch of other options, and it eventually came down to price. And was I going to get it when I needed it to be here for, what we were doing in the kitchen? It had to arrive at a certain point of time. So that was kind of important for me.
But you can see what the problem is for the retailer. I mean,
sure.
First of all, there's Home Depot. Home Depot pays rent on a site that you go to look at things but not buy. And the manufacturer puts its brand in Home Depot in the hopes that you can see it, but then has to find you on Amazon or Appliance Connection. Appliance Connection does all this so cheap because they use no advertising.
That's right.
They're just the last stop after you've done everything else that everybody else has greased the skids for you to do.
They basically piggyback off of everyone else's advertising. So they can offer you a lesser price because they're not doing all the advertising.
Exactly.
So let me say something about the stove, because we wanted that stove actually for about 4 years, but it initially wasn't offered in the configuration we wanted. The thing about it was that I actually had 5 friends who purchased it over that 4-year period, and then they finally did it in the configuration that I wanted. So the way that I cook, I wanted a gas below, and I wanted an actual oven, not just a drawer to store crap on the very bottom. So we have 2 ovens, but the big main one you could put in like a 30-pound turkey and it'll work. And so, for the once a year Thanksgiving or once every 5-year Thanksgiving or whatever that looks like. But, or like I always get a case of chilies every year from this one guy at the farmer's market, and I roasted the entire 30 pounds of chilies in one shot in the oven, and then processed them and threw them all in the freezer. So, I mean, I like having, but I wanted a certain thing, right? Well, okay, so here's the difference between, for me, buying the dishwasher, the washing machine and dryer, the refrigerator. This stove, GE has been very smart. What they did is they've put out one stove that they've just improved on and improved on and improved on, and so they can capture the word of mouth. What happens with all the other appliances is you get a new crop every year, and then Consumer Reports and all these other places, and then the users try to follow on with reviews and stuff, and you can't track it. And Home Despots and Lowe's and everybody, which I don't feel sorry for. I spend a couple grand a year at each of those, and whatever, they're making money on me even if I don't buy my appliances there. But
Home Depot is my second home.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we've done a lot of fixing and remodeling and this and that and the other, and we spend a lot there, so they're not suffering. Anyway, the thing about the stove is that GE continues to offer this stove. It's a very good price point because there's really expensive ones like Empire Wolf, blah blah blah, in the $5,000 to $25,000 range, which only super high end people would probably buy. And this one is basically a chef's stove at the top of the next rung down,
Of the
which is
consumer end.
the $2,400 to $3,000 range, and that it's going to last. It's not an apartment stove or range. Basically this stove is built to work for 25 or 50 years. Like, it's not going away, and so they can capitalize on the word of mouth. And this has become like, everyone I know who needs to buy a new stove is like, oh, I can get, any configuration in either electrical or gas or propane, and it works, and it's really good, and it has high BTUs out of the stove, and it's, the oven is solid, and it has become the thing that you buy if you're not going to buy a super high-end stove, which frankly my parents bought one, and it's ridiculous. It's a decor, and there's just everything wrong with it. It does not work. I'm a cook. I need things, and a baker. I need stuff to work right.
You don't want it just to look pretty.
Yeah, this is not about, I could care less about look pretty. This is functional. I need function to work
Although
really
it does
well.
look pretty.
Okay,
It does
this
look
is
good.
now the Martha Stewart kitchen show.
It is.
So what I'm saying
Well, hey,
is
we're
that
women who
because
cook
they've been
too.
smart
You
about it
notice
by
my
reissuing
silence.
the stove over and over, they can capitalize on the word of mouth. I bought this stove mainly because of word of mouth, then did reviews, then looked at where I could get it for a good price with good delivery, and since it only had a 1-year warranty, of course I want the 5-year extended, blah blah blah, and I wanted to put together a good deal. So I probably spent 3 hours on the stove after I decided I wanted that exact stove.
That's
But
a big purchase. Yeah. So
it's a big purchase, and it was out the door. We got one that someone ordered and then didn't take delivery on because they wanted a different configuration, so we were able to save $600 on it. But we would have just spent the full amount because we wanted exactly that deal, and it is the right thing. But yeah, I mean, how do you get to people? I think the appliance business is totally messed up. All this changing around and
Like
these
the
different model
advertising
numbers,
business.
it's crap. Yeah, get a consistent dishwasher, and don't screw around, and everyone will want that dishwasher. That's the deal. But making all these models,
which
it's
reminds
just
me,
really
I need to get
dumb.
off this show so I can call a repairing person for my dishwasher. Okay.
You're not doing a Gillmor gang at 1 o'clock,
I
are
am
you?
not doing a Gillmor Gang at 1 o'clock.
goodness.
Gillmor Gang is moved to Saturday at 10 o'clock for this week because of Dreamforce.
Right.
Oh, right.
So, okay. Well, Dreamforce is almost come and gone. It's only got a couple more hours, so we'll breathe a sigh of relief in our house. All right. By the way, Dreamforce did have a pretty awesome giving program this year. They collected 1 million books for school children that will be distributed. Kudos to Salesforce for always thinking about the kids in the community. All right,
Yeah,
so
right.
thank you to Ustream. We use Ustream to stream live and record G3 as well as the Gillmor Gang every week when we do it. And by the way, we are off next week. So if you try to find us here on a Thursday or a Friday, which is when we usually record, you will be sad because we won't be here. We invite you to come back the week after that. We are trying to sort of shift our show a little bit, I think, to Fridays. It's becoming a little more comfortable for us there with our schedules. So know that. And thank you to New Tech and their TriCaster, without which this show would not be a video show. It would be podcast. It would be like this. Hello, we're talking. Okay, that's what it would be like. Okay. Thank you. And I'm going to say thank you to Christy. She really hung in there. She had a difficult internet connection today. She knew that as we were going in. We tried to work around it, and it just then completely failed on her. We tried to get her back. But thank you to Christy. She's going to tell us some safari stories next time because we really need to hear them. We want to hear about how fabulous the elephants are and all those great stories I know she has. Thank you to Rebecca Woodcock, Francine Hardaway, and Mary Hodder, and Christy Wells. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you all for being here. We will see you soon. Let's get our logo together, and we'll say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Max, now you can let him in.